Greetings, class. This presentation covers Chapter 7 and 8. I'm Ruth Green, one of your classmates, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about Step 1 and Step 2, Once Upon a Time and Brand First. Leading up to Chapter 7 and 8, our author takes us through the 6 C's of brand story. So we're now beginning that process of collecting the backstory and characterizing our brand, the first 2 C's. Our author wisely talks to us about what is our brand and how did we get here and where are we going. That's really what these 2 chapters are all about. So chapter 7, entitled Collecting the Backstory, starts off by saying, once upon a time. Well, essentially what I took from this is the 3 points he notes on page 74. The backstory would come into 3 sections. In the beginning, so where did we as a company start? What's the history of our brand? Who started it and why? What was that original vision? And is the vision the same today? Why or why not? So, where did we begin? What happened after we began? Was it a smashing start? Maybe, maybe not. We need to assess that though. How has our brand changed? And then, where are we today? The now section of our backstory. And according to our author, it's probably the most important since it's when we get handed the baton, as he states. The goal is to take what our brand is today, understand how we got to this point, and then move us forward. So there are some tools that we will use. He recommends a few, and I'm going to highlight those as part of our situational analysis, understanding what is our culture, what are our values, not what the customer says our values are, what do we say our values are. This is a very internal process. First of all, a tool that is used in business often is a SWOT analysis. If you've never been a part of a SWOT analysis, it can be a little overwhelming. The author chooses not to go into detail, but I felt like perhaps if you haven't come from a business background, this may be something that you need to be aware of, so I've provided some resources for you. Mindtools.com is a resource that I've used a lot, and you may find it helpful as well. On the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to have the example of a PDF file that you can download to help walk you through a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis essentially allows an organization to ask itself some questions. What are our strengths? What do we do well? What do we see that we do well? And what do others see that we do well? What are our resources? On the other end of the spectrum, what are our weaknesses? Where might we improve? Where do you have resources that are less in one component, department, area than another? Perhaps that is a weakness. The opportunities section is one that often requires a lot of thought. What are the opportunities that are open to me personally or my organization? Are there some trends happening in the world? For example, these days, social media plays a tremendous role in how we create an authentic brand and how quickly our consumers and our clients make a decision about our brand. Remember from our author at the beginning of the book taught us that we don't want just customers, we want believers. So a trend that we might consider using is the social media tools that are out there. How do we use those more effectively? What's our opportunity to use those to help tell our brand story and ensure that it is an authentic story? And then, what are the threats? What are the things that the competition is doing? What is exposing our weaknesses? What could hurt us environmentally, governmentally, culturally? Perhaps it's just a matter of lack of succession planning. We have lots of people getting ready to retire. Institutional knowledge walking out the door. That could be a threat. So a SWOT analysis, whether it's personally or organizationally, I have found to be a great tool. And Mind Tools, this little worksheet from Mind Tools, as well as the steps and detailed information that they provide, may offer some support for you if it is new. Another tool the author mentions is performing an assessment of the 4 P's of marketing within our organization. The 4 P's are, first of all, we're going to look at our product. What is it that we have to offer? Secondly, what is the price? Does this mean that it doesn't apply to nonprofits? No, definitely not. Place is all about the distribution of our product, and promotion is the piece that people often associate with the word marketing. But as you see here, marketing is much broader. Promotion is getting the word out, making people and clients aware of what our product is, what our price is, and how to actually attain it, how to obtain it, how to access it, how to buy it, how to use that service, find that service. The last one that the author mentioned that was new for me is Michael Porter's Harvard Business School 5 Forces model. Again, Mind Tools gives us a good overview of that, so if you're interested in pursuing that further, be sure to check out mindtools.com. Not only do they have good resources on these few items, but many other business-related items as well. So back to our textbook, Chapter 7, Once Upon a Time, the author is reminding us how important it is for us to take that internal look in order to determine our backstory. It's a matter of, for me, I understood it as a matter of really understanding the culture of which our brand exists. I thought an interesting term that the author used was to be a corporate anthropologist, to assess the company's values, customs, and traditions. I thought it was very insightful how he noted that the pictures that are hanging on the walls give insight into a company's values, insights into a company's cultural history, their traditions. Why were those pictures chosen? What do they mean for this brand? What do they mean about us as a company? Also, he notes that a company's rites and rituals are important to take a look at. Do the employees subscribe to mottos? All of those are questions that we probably would not have thought to ask ourselves, but that SWOT analysis can help us go deeper into how we got here, where we are, and what are the opportunities to take us forward, and what are the threats that would endanger us moving forward or staying where we are and losing market share. Our author talks about Google, um, the employee handbook. That certainly should give you great insights into what a company stands for and what they truly value. As we move on to the end of the chapter 7, the author says, his purpose here is merely to say that some sort of audit should be conducted to ascertain information about history, the recent past. So in the beginning, where did the company start? What was important? Did it grow? But most importantly, where are we today and where do we need to go and how are we going to get there? When we move on to the next chapter and we begin to develop and characterize our brand, we're moving out of the backstory step and we're beginning to analyze first things last. Isn't that an interesting statement? We tend to think of first things first. If you are a Stephen Covey follower, you might have heard of beginning with the end in mind. Our author on page 81 says first things first. He uses the storytelling analogy again. He says, writers, at least the best among them, do not start by conducting focus groups to help them decide between genres or story themes. So he's trying to remind us that we need to understand the who, the where, and the what, but considerations that get in the way up front can definitely give us some trouble. The story branding process does what is prescribed by the marketing concept in reverse. So he says you put the brand first. Again, we're trying to determine a historic viewpoint culturally on our brand's meaning, not going out and asking our customers what it means, but asking ourselves what it means. We want to know just how far away we are from what our customers think we are. And if we find that we need to change, we need to be able to do so because it's part of who we are and our core vision, not simply because it seems like the thing to do at that time. There were several examples given in this chapter of less than successful changes. If you haven't had a chance to look over those, I would recommend that you do so. And as the chapter begins to wrap up, he uses the analogy of X marks the spot. Characterizing a brand is similar to looking for the X that marks you are here on one of the store directories at the shopping mall. According to the author, nobody knows where the brand X is any better than management. And if there's disagreement, we have to work towards better internal alignment. I love that he used the Xerox Corporation example. When I was growing up, you would say things like, I need a Tylenol. Go make a Xerox copy of this. Give me a Kleenex. You talk about brand identification. These days, we're much more aware of different brands, not necessarily being the product itself. So now we wouldn't go out and say, give me a Xerox copy. We'd say, give me a copy. Go, you can use the Xerox machine. You can use the Ricoh copier, whatever the brand might be. Well, this was to Xerox's detriment when they tried to move into a whole different realm by making computers. People didn't think of them as being a computer business. They thought of them as a copy business. Another example they talk about is McDonald's. In the beginning, he says that McDonald's associated itself with the values of food, folks, and fun. Burger King, after all these years, still lacks market share compared to McDonald's. Nike was another example that he noted. How well do we know Nike? How well do we know Google? How well do we know Apple? So the author wants us to be aware that our brand's outer layer is very important, that it provides those clues on where to find that X, that we need to work backwards from the functions that your product performs so you can get a better understanding of your brand's underlying motivation for existing. Last but not least, our author says that story branding starts out as art before the scientists have their say, and that we should strive for authenticity. So, to help us remember this, I've given an A for authenticity, and I've done a little research outside of our textbook, and I have a quote that I'd like to share with you. Peter Minium, from Authentic Storytelling, the article he posted in Marketing Land, 5 Rules for the New Frontier of Marketing, states, "The world is hungry for more truth, realness, and transparency. Social media platforms are enabling our consumers to express their authentic selves, and they expect the same from the brands they choose." So as we begin to understand more about story branding, we never want to forget that we're not making up a story, we're simply telling our authentic story. Our brand needs to represent who we are, and we need to not lose sight of that. The professor has asked us to give a question at the end. So the question that I have for you is, if we stick with an A for authentic, is Amazon still authentic to their brand? Amazon began in a garage with a man selling books. Do we still think of Amazon that way today? What might be Amazon's purpose for existing today versus what it was all those years ago? Has the corporate Amazon environment lost its authenticity? And what is their brand story? It certainly has to be more than just selling books today. So I hope that we'll be able to think about that question in light of what we've been learning in our textbook so far. And especially, I am trying to relate this to principles that I learned in the social media class I had in the spring semester. So I look forward to your input on what I've shared with you here, what you understood from the chapter that I may have missed, and what you think about Amazon and how they tell their story, and are they losing authenticity? I hope this has been helpful, and I've enjoyed sharing with you my thoughts on those 2 chapters, and I look forward to reading and listening to your presentations as well. God bless you. This is the end of the recording.